On this episode, we welcome Dan Hellman of Hellman Holistic Health.
The meme, the study of the meme, the mimetic principles or mimetic complexes were so powerful to me because I finally realized, like I said before, that I really do not control my own mind. And there's so few people that control their own mind. That's the scary part. Human beings are very, very easily brainwashed. All you have to do is scare them and then sell them something. And our civilization is great at that. That's what religion does. That's what pharmaceutical companies do. That's what insurance companies do. They scare the shit out of you, and then they sell you a product.
I can think of one particular politician that's just a champ at that right now.
Exactly. Human beings are the only creatures on earth that strive to be something else. Your dog always wants to be a dog. Your cat wants to be a cat. A monkey wants to be a monkey. I mean, they do what cats do. They do what dogs do. They do what monkeys do. But human beings, boy, if you show them that can of Coke and you can be like Michael Jordan, boy, I'm all in, right? They're the only creatures that really have this sense of hierarchy, like we're always trying to achieve. And that, that's great. That's definitely great. But that can also be the end of us because then we work ourselves to death, literally. The human ego is a bastard. It really is.
That's coming up. All right, great show coming up with Dan Hellman. Before we get started, I just want to remind you to head over to rebelhealthtribe.com to find all of our great content from Mike and I, as well as our amazing group of contributors. And right now, you can join our premium membership program for free for 30 days by going to rebelhealthtribe.com/join and use the code REBELPOD at checkout. That's rebelhealthtribe.com/join. Okay, like I said, we've got Dan Hellman on the show today. This conversation went in a bunch of weird and awesome directions. This was the episode, I think, for Mike and I that really sort of locked into what we wanted this podcast to be. Just completely free-flowing and letting the conversation go wherever it wanted to go, and just getting some great stories and getting to know him better and understand his history. It was really fascinating. We got to talk about his own spiritual journey and the role that Paul Chek played in that. He's just really open and honest in this episode about how he struggled with religion and dogma and finally taking control of his own mind, losing the guilt and fear that was attached to his Catholic upbringing. And that's certainly something that really resonated with me. Anyway, you could find Dan at hellmanholistic.health.com. Really great stuff. Here's Mike and I with Dan Hellman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rebel Health Tribe Podcast. I'm Joe Regnola with Michael Roseline, as always.
Hello.
Actually, as always, there was one who I did solo, it was when you did solo, but, pretty much.
That was most of the time.
Most of the time. Most of the time, exactly. Today we are joined by Dan Hellman of HellmanHolisticHealth.com. Hey Dan, how's it going?
Hey guys, it's going really well. We finally have some nice South Florida winter weather, so we're doing good down here.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry,
Joe, you're gonna have to move at some point because everybody's always beating you up, and then I'm on their side, and then it's just you in the cold.
Exactly. In the cold, in my basement, lonely.
You better get a brooder bulb so you can sit underneath the light so you don't get the seasonal affect disorder.
Yeah, no, the older I get, the more I'm affected by the changing of the season. I don't know if that's a thing or if it's hormonal or whatever it is. But yeah, this year it kind of hit me the hardest. I definitely felt a bit depressed when the weather started changing.
I understand.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is there some correlation with age in that?
Well, I would assume there would be. As I get older too, I know I definitely don't like being in a cold, damp, sunless environment. So I'm sure there probably is an age correlation to it in the reduction of the hormonal system. But, you do what you can.
Yep. And what I can is probably move to freaking Florida. We've tossed around the idea for sure, so we may meet up down there in Florida before too long. I don't know how many more years of this I could take.
We got room for you.
So anyway, Dan, for folks that don't know you, want to give a little background about what you do and how you got started doing what you do?
You want the short version, the long version? Which version would you wish to hear?
We've got about an hour.
Yeah, we got
Okay. I presently own, and I'm based in Fort Lauderdale. I own my small company called Hellman Holistic Health. And how I kind of got to that place is, it took me down many, many winding roads. And, I always thought I had an idea of what I wanted to do with my life. And, of course, whenever you have a plan, that's when God laughs in your face. So I wanted to do something medical. I knew that when I was growing up as a kid. I was a big sports person, and I was injured playing basketball, and I had a physical therapist rehab me and get me back before the state tournament. And I thought, wow, what an incredible person this guy is for helping me get back to something that I love to do. And I figured right away that I wanted to be a physical therapist, or more importantly, probably an athletic trainer and work with athletes. So my undergraduate degree took me that direction. And the more I started to work with athletes, the more I realized that maybe I didn't want to work with athletes because they can be a real pain in the ass. But that was my calling, and so I did my bachelor's degree in athletic training, and then I knew that I wanted to go on to graduate school and not limit myself to athletes, so I wanted to go to physical therapy school, and that way I could, branch out and treat more than just athletes. And that took me down another path of trying to get into physical therapy school. I was turned down 3 times with a 3.58 grade average. I averaged 40 hours a week outside of classrooms with my teams. I had tons of experience. I actually even took an entire year and did a semester of an internship in a physical therapy clinic, thinking that, hey, because I don't have a 4.0, having all that experience would put me over the top. So it even took me 5 years to do my undergraduate instead of 4 years. And lo and behold, it took me I was turned down 3 times at physical therapy school, and I was finally accepted. Fortunately, again, everything kind of turns out for a reason. I wanted to go to my home state school, and I ended up getting accepted to an osteopath school in Des Moines, and that's a big foreshadowing to where I am now. And so I got my graduate degree in physical therapy at an osteopath-based physical therapy school in Des Moines, Iowa. And then I knew I wanted to do outpatient orthopedics, so I took a traveling position until I really figured out what I wanted to do. Took me many places all around the South. I became very familiar with the warm weather and realized that's where I wanted to end up. Even had a short stint in Belgium for a while, tried to live in a European culture, which I absolutely loved, but again, I was finding out that I needed to be near the sun. I needed to see sunshine. So that took me back, and I said to myself, I'm either going to move to Florida or I'm going to move to California. And when I got back to the States, I took a vacation to South Florida, and I never left. So I came down here, I fell in love with the ocean, I fell in love with the Sunshine State, and it just kind of felt like home for me. And so this is where I started setting up my roots. I've been in South Florida since 1999. And when I finished physical therapy school, it was really interesting. It was like it was a cusp of, at one point, physical therapists, you could really write your own ticket, and then managed care took over, and now it was instead of a fee for service approach, now if your assessment, maybe you got paid $9.50 for your assessment. So the physical therapy profession really took a hit. And I never forget, when I moved to South Florida, I put out 40 resumes, and I was given 2 job offers. And those 2 job offers were for over 40 hours a week, plus seeing teams on the weekend because they wanted to utilize my athletic training background. And I think the beginning salary was $38,000 a year.
Good Lord.
And I thought to myself, wow, that is not a lot of money. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And at that point, I was in a position where I was able to jump into a different situation with support, and I decided I was going to put my business cards into a gym and go into the gym setting, because I'd always been attracted to the fitness aspect. I've always been attracted to healthy people. And so I did that, and because of my physical therapy background, everything just took off. But I found myself very quickly becoming generic personal trainer, which I did not like. And I found myself sitting people on machines and gossiping and really not paying attention. And in my heart, it just kept telling me that my degree, I know more than this. I can do better than this. And at about that time, I got a pamphlet in the mail for ECA in New York, which is a fitness conference. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go up and take some functional training classes, because that was the big buzzword, functional training. And I highlighted, and the person I highlighted 3 times, and there was this guy by the name of Paul Chek, and I'd never heard of him before in my life. And I highlighted, I think, Juan Carlos Santana and maybe one other guy, and head up to New York. And I'll never forget, I tell this story quite often. I'm sitting in the class. There's probably about 50, 60 people in the classroom. We're all sitting on Swiss balls. I'm in the very middle of the room, and I have a bad attitude because I'm the physical therapist and these guys are all trainers. And I'm sitting there with my arms folded, and my body language always gives me away. It's given me away my entire life. I can't hide my body language. And I'm sitting with my arms folded, bad attitude. And I'll never forget, Paul Chek begins speaking, and he's looking right at me. And he goes, "Who in here is a personal trainer?" And everyone raised their hand except for me. He goes,
he was calling you out right from there. Huh?
Well, he knew that there was an energetic field coming off of me that he could not probably deny. And he goes, "Well, what are you?" And I go, "I'm a physical therapist." And he goes, "Well, where are all your little buddies at? They should be here." And I thought to myself, wow, this guy's a real asshole. I really thought that. And if I would not have been in the middle of the room, I would have definitely got up and walked out. But because I was in the middle of the room and my ego told me that that would be really bad, I just stayed there. And from that point on, man, the guy changed my life. Within 15 minutes, he taught me things that I wished my physical therapy school would have taught me. And I was hook, line, and sinker from that point on. And the next thing you know, I'm taking classes, and I'm meeting Susie Neville, a New Zealand-trained physio, and she influences me because she's also a physio. And I just go through the ranks. And I was really kind of floundering again because I was so caught up in the Czech Institute and what I was doing, and I wasn't really happy with my present situation of my office or working in the gym. And not until I took Paul's PPS program and I started doing the personal, professional, spiritual side of me and figuring out what my offering and what my gift is to society. And every time I would do one of the dang programs in the PPS program, it would always point me to being a leader or a teacher of some sort. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting because I am deathly afraid of public speaking. I remember back to my graduate and my undergraduate days, and I literally, if I had to give a speech on Friday, I was crapping my pants on Monday. And it and I thought, wow, this program doesn't work. And because it's telling me to do something that I am not comfortable with. And about that time, I get a call from Whole Foods Market. They had just opened in Fort Lauderdale, and they said, "Hey, we're doing community service. Would you give a lecture? You can do it on anything you want." The lectures are usually small. Maybe 3-4 people will show up. So I'll never forget I did a lecture called Flatten Your Abs Forever from the Inside Out, which was based on nutrition and lifestyle factors. And so I put a sign out, and I show up that night, and they had a record. They had like 18 people show up for the lecture. I never forget, I was nervous as hell. But as soon as I started the lecture, I realized I was getting high off of the information. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Maybe this is my calling. And it dawned on me for the first time ever, I got to give a lecture about something that I was passionate about, not something that the teacher told me that I had to lecture on. So from there, it snowballed, and now I'm in a big quandary because, okay, PPS tells me I need to be a teacher or an instructor, but who am I going to be an instructor for? I mean, Paul Chek would never want me. He's got all these amazing people. And I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to ask him. So I was going out there for Czech level 3, no, HLC 3, Czech level 3 something. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to hire him for an hour of his time because I want him to take me serious. So I call up his assistant. Okay, schedule it, no problem, $550. And I walked in. He's looking down at he's signing books at his desk, and he looks up and he goes, "Hey, Dan, what's up?" I go, "Well, there's nothing wrong with me, but I want to be one of your teachers." And he looks up at me and he goes, "I knew you'd be in here. Consider it done." And from that point on, I was standing there with my jaw open, and I'm like, "Really? That's it?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I knew you would be in here from the moment I laid eyes on you in New York. I knew we had this history together in this past, and I would love you to be on the faculty." And from that point on, I was streamlined into the Czech faculty, and I've been teaching for Paul for years now, and I teach exercise coach level 1, level 2. I teach the team Czech stuff. So it's been amazing. I mean, my journey has been really incredible, and I'm very thankful for it because it's allowed me to see a lot of different things, to treat a lot of different people, to travel. It's been nothing but an amazing blessing, and it's really taken me a long way to have a beautiful practice of having, you know, my own private clients in my office, and then being able to go out on the road and to affect more than just one person at a time. And I think that's what my calling was, and I really am happy to say that I feel like I'm living my passion. And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there's an obvious spiritual underpinning to everything that you're talking about here. Was that something that was always on your radar? Were you always a spiritual person, or was that a shift that kind of happened around the time you met Paul?
It was a huge shift because, you know, I was raised Catholic, very devout Catholic family. My mother went to church every day. You know, I was forced to go to church. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into certain aspects of my life, but I mean, there was many times when I couldn't reconcile what was being said by the preacher and what was going on with my life, and I never could reconcile the aspect that they would say God is love, but yet so many people are excluded from their love. Mm-hmm. And so when I met Paul, and you know, Paul is an amazing spiritual leader in my opinion, and we started talking about dogmatic principles. We started talking about memes. You know, memes are replicating ideas. Are the ideas in your head really yours, or are they somebody else's? And when I started unlocking my own thoughts and starting actually to take control of my own mind, well, then things started to unfold for me. And it was scary at first, but it was also extremely freeing and liberating, and felt like the weight of the earth came off my shoulders. So the movement from religion, from organized religion, to being more in a spiritual sense, that was quite the process for me. But it was one that I was able to click into extremely quickly because I was never really comfortable with what I was being told as I was growing up as a child.
Right, right. Would you consider yourself being religious even into your adulthood out of almost fear or necessity or guilt, or
all
of that the second you kind of, you know, got older?
All of the above. I was going to church every Sunday all the way through graduate school, and you know, still really reconciling and having a hard time reconciling what was being told to me by the person standing up on stage. So it was well into my adulthood. So the weeds had definitely taken strong root in my mind and in my consciousness and in my DNA. Mm-hmm. And to this day, it's every now and then you have to stop yourself and you have to say to yourself, hey, is that my thought, or is that the church's thought? Is that my parents' thought? Is that religion's thought? Is that magazine's thought? I mean, whose thought is that's coming into my brain? Very few people actually do control their own mind. And that is one thing that I think is a struggle, you know, every day of my life, because when you're indoctrinated into a religious practice at a very early age, it's in your DNA. It's in every cell in your body.
Yeah.
I went to private school too through ninth grade. I can relate to similar experience. Wow, that's cool. That's the PPS program. That's Paul's personal. What is it? Personal,
professional, and spiritual development. The website is ppssuccess.com. I really owe that program. I owe that program not just to where I am today professionally. I owe that program probably my life. I really do, because there was, again, I don't want to get into a lot of specifics, but there were some really, really dark periods in my life that this program really helped me see the light of, and to try to turn it around. So it's an amazing program that you can do at home, one lesson a month, whatever pace you want to work at. And, I owe that particular program, a debt of gratitude.
Should probably bump
you said
it
it was
up my
scary.
list.
Yeah, I might look at that.
It's scary because it's people, it's change. The reason why I can say it's scary, and Paul warned us from day one, he said, listen, if you're going to do this program and you have a significant other, I highly recommend that significant other does the program with you, or there could be a divorce. There could be a split. And I don't remember how many people were in the first class, but I was in the first class. I think out of the first class, 3 or 4 people got divorced because they did not listen to what Paul was saying. And whenever in a relationship, whenever one person is growing and the other person is stagnant, it's very scary for the person that's stagnant. They see the growth and they don't understand it. And it's not right, wrong, or bad. It just is what it is. And whenever somebody has a growth period and the other person does not, it can be a major problem.
That happens all the time. I mean, that's not just in that program. I mean, I've seen that with countless clients over the years where their spouse or partner isn't supportive and almost sabotaging them or trying to stop them from doing things. And we interviewed JP on that, or I did, for the Primal 90 last year, basically on that subject, like how to navigate an extremely unsupportive partner. And I interviewed him, and then I interviewed Sarah I don't know if you know Sarah. She's a HLC3 also, but she had one take, and that was, do your thing and don't be so concerned with, you can only control you. And then JP's was, you have to look at that from a place of compassion and, like, why are they acting like they're acting? And it's out of fear. I mean, like you just said, it's out of fear that you're going to change, that you're going to become someone else, that you're going to be either better than them or too good for them or turn into a different person, or they're going to lose you or that version of you or that projection of you that they have. And it's super real. I mean, it happened to me in my previous relationship when I went to HLC and started changing my life a lot and started making changes in my life. Like, we drifted further and further apart because I didn't want to go out on Friday nights and get hammered anymore. Like, I didn't want to watch stupid TV shows anymore. I didn't want to do certain things, and there's only so much of that, like, I don't know that word, 2 points going further apart, that, relationship can take.
Sure,
I guess,
and I mean, really, I think one of the great definitions of love is just connection between two people for the exchange of information. And when you start losing that connection because you're off doing your thing and your significant other is left back doing their thing, well, that exchange of information is lost, and there's no longer a common tie or a common bond between the two people because they're off doing their own thing. And I think that's when the relationships usually start to break down.
It's I see it all the time. That PPS program has been on, like, my back burner for 6 years now. I've always been like, oh, I need to get around to that. And you're probably the 8th or 9th person I know in the Czech community that has said similar, that it's really the reason why they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, will I say, the 12 lessons? Will I say all 12 of them are earth shattering, and you need to do them all 12? No, but there's a few lessons in there, especially when you start studying what a meme is and what dogmatic practices are and what control bots are and stuff like that. I mean, the meme, the study of the meme, the mimetic principles or mimetic complexes were so powerful to me because I finally realized, like I said before, that I really do not control my own mind. And there's so few people that control their own mind. That's the scary part. Human beings are very, very easily brainwashed when it comes down to it. All you have to do is scare them and then sell them something. And our civilization is great at that. That's what religion does. That's what pharmaceutical companies do. That's what insurance companies do. They scare the shit out of you, and then they sell you a product.
I can think of one particular politician that's just a champ at that right now.
Exactly. Right?
Almost every industry, clothing, anything. You need to look this way. You need to do this thing, and
if you don't fit in with the latest fashion, you're an outcast, right?
Latest iPhone.
Exactly.
I read a book. It's called. I'm looking at my shelf right now. It's called Culture Jam. It's written by the editor and creator of Adbusters magazine. Which, if you've never seen Adbusters magazine, you'd probably dig it, Dan. They actually started the Occupy Wall Street thing before it was a thing. Like he was the one who mentioned, like, hey, if you guys want to be pissed at somebody, these are the people to be pissed at, and it kind of snowballed into that. But their magazine and his book is all about marketing manipulation and psychology, and like how many times a day you're flashed something that, this billboard, this sign, and you don't even realize it half the time, and like how kids can recognize, 50 different brands before they're 3, like logos and things like that, but they don't know, pick your random useful fact, and they don't know anything, but they can identify every single logo that was ever created, and it's all by design.
It's all by design because these people know this. I mean, human beings are the only creatures on Earth that have a hierarchy. Human beings are the only creatures on Earth that strive to be something else. Your dog always wants to be a dog. Your cat wants to be a cat. A monkey wants to be a monkey. I mean, they do what cats do. They do what dogs do. They do what monkeys do. But human beings, boy, if you show them that can of Coke and you can be like Michael Jordan, boy, I'm all in, right? If you buy the set of Nike tennis shoes and you can be like LeBron James, I'm all in. So human beings really have this, they're the only creatures that really have this sense of hierarchy, like we're always trying to achieve. And that, that's great, that's definitely great, but that can also be the end of us because then we work ourselves to death, literally, and so on and so forth. So that, the human ego is a bastard, it really is.
And having to be better than everyone and have this thing and have that thing and... Yeah, I guess my dog, he's pretty content just kind of being on the couch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? He's living the life.
I always dig your pictures of Abby's your dog, right?
Abby, she's the one thing that keeps me grounded, and I just love her to death. And whenever I have free time, that's what I want to do. Is I just want to spend time with her.
Yeah, I see your pictures of her in the studio, in the car, and everywhere, and it reminds me like. I've had Marley now for 9 years, and when I first got him, I was in a pretty bad place in my life, and I lived in Florida too. I lived in Tampa. I think we've talked about that, but he went from Illinois to Florida with me, back to Illinois, to Arizona, to California, and my life has changed so much since I got him. I originally bought him, I wanted to get a dog so that I was still in the restaurant industry and the bartending and serving, and I wanted to have a responsibility that forced me to go home after work at night instead of going out with everyone. And I thought, a dog. And he accomplished that, but then, like, my life now versus my life then, the only thing that's even remotely the same or similar is the dog.
Absolutely.
And, and he's been through all those different stages with me, and my friends are mostly different. The people in my life are mostly different. My surroundings are different. What I'm doing for a living is different. I'm different. Like, everything's different. Dog is the same. And dog is the same happy when I come home that he was 9 years ago.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
It's cool. Sometimes I like animals a lot better than I like people, and I always identify with your posts when you show Abby in various parts of your life. So, cool. Wow. This is a cool conversation. I'm glad for the direction that this went. Joe, do you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, talking about recognizing your mind as opposed to your ego, and people have no control over their mind, but I think most people just equate mind with brain. When you say mind, what are you talking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, people obviously all have brains. I mean, there's some extremely smart people on this planet, but again, it just every day it baffles me when I hear people argue the point of, for example, organic food versus non-organic food, and that non-organic food is just as nutritious, and I can't reconcile anyone that I think can control their own mind has to understand that, well, if this food is sprayed with herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, and pesticides, and GMO grown, and how can you say that it's as good as the organic food? And the only thing that I can come up with that is the programming by big corporations. And so again, it's not that people aren't smart. I mean, they have brains, they can think. I mean, there's some really intelligent people, but I think we have gotten so far away from the natural rhythms of life, like the sleeping aspect, the drinking water aspect, the eating good food, the taking time out to rest and recover. We've gotten so far away from the natural vibrations and the natural rhythms of life that we are, I'm going to use this word, I don't really mean it, we're stupid when it comes to the basics of life. I have physicians consult with me, and they wonder why they have MS, and I look at their diet log, and every meal is Chinese food. And I'm like, don't you realize the MSG and the additives, but there's no connection anymore with what our environment is doing to our bodies. We have all the technology in the world, but we don't have the street smarts anymore. And to me, that's the big difference. And I think that's why, I haven't taken one in a long time, but I'll be going to this faculty meeting again. But I know Paul has literally had to dumb down HLC1 and HLC2 to the point where he now has a song for Dr. Diet. He's got a song for Dr. Quiet. So you literally have to start taking people to the 4th grade level. And I saw somebody say something very fascinating before. She said the reason why Donald Trump is so popular right now is because he speaks at a 4th grade level.
I saw that.
He does.
Yeah.
Everything is good.
He studied his language. They actually studied his language, and
that's what a 4th grader says.
Yeah.
So we are adults, but we are children in adult suits when it comes to it. At the end of the day, we're nothing but children. We haven't evolved past the 7th grade, past the age of 7.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's an accident that he's speaking at a 4th or 5th grade level.
Of course not. Of course not. It's not an accident.
He's probably smarter than that. But look who's he trying to appeal? It's working like a charm.
Well, newspapers, I believe, are written at a 5th grade level. As a general, like, that's their guidelines, I'm pretty sure, and I think it's been like that for a while. So we could go down the road of like the spiral of, what is it, Idiocracy. That movie's fantastic. But it's definitely by design, and
the dumbing down of America, the dumbing down of the world.
With each generation, we've gotten a little bit dumber. But it's I think most politicians do that, but I think it's almost so apparent with him that he's using trigger words and using fear, and it's the same thing I see a lot of marketers do. These certain triggers, and almost like NLP to trigger people and get them to buy what he's selling, which is.
And on the flip side of that too, if I go down this road, I can be the most pessimistic, the most, it can just really decimate me. I think one of the reasons why I'm fairly good at what I do, or I feel like I have this gift, is that I'm very sensitive to my surroundings. I always have been. And, so if I go down this road, it can be very dark for me. So I have to look at the flip side of things every now and then, and we do have this amazing cultural shift and this awareness that's occurring. So it's always important that we look at both sides of the coin. I mean, we have organizations like Millions Against Monsanto, and we do have different organizations out there that are fighting the duality. So, but it's always an uphill battle, and it's it's something that at times can look extremely bleak and extremely terrifying, but we just got to keep making an impact one person at a time.
Yeah, I went down the crazy activist road when I first started learning all this stuff. I learned the political war, lies, news, nonsense stuff before I learned the health end of things. So it was like a few years before I found HLC and found Paul's stuff and whatever. But I had started reading some more radical, I guess, political things that would paint all this as bullshit, essentially. And I went down the crazy activist route. I went down the black mask on the face in the streets getting beat up by police route. I was pissed. I yelled at everybody. I ranted and raved. I would all this stuff. And I turned into a crazy person. Like I was even more depressed and more crazy, and it was hopeless. And it was like, why doesn't everybody care? Why isn't anybody listening? Why are you all so stupid? And this is like, you're all stupid. I know what's going on. You should listen to me. And I get way more people's attention now when I don't scream and shout and act like an asshole all the time, and kind of just do things differently, and people see how you're doing the different things, and they're like, oh, that looks like a good idea, or this guy seems like he knows what's going on, and it's way more effective to be like, hey, come on, let's try this, instead of you're all dumb assholes and you're ruining the world. And that's some of the books JP recommended in HLC are ones like Tolle's books, and I read Pieces Every Step is a great book. A lot of these books that taught me how you said like your mind is not your brain, and like how we're not controlled by our thoughts. And like when I started to learn that like I can observe a thought, like, oh, I'm having a thought that I'm angry right now, but I don't need to let that like permeate my being. I can kind of let it go. So like a meditation practice and stuff, it really changed. Like I'm still an activist. I still consider myself an activist. I still post, activist type things on social media, and I still live in a certain way that's different. But you're not going to see me, standing on top of a car screaming at someone fighting riot police anymore.
Even though sometimes you want to.
Yeah, but it makes you crazy. And everyone I knew in that world, because I started to meet some like organizers. I met people who'd been doing it since 1955.
Yeah. And
we need those people. Like that needs to be a thing. Like there needs to be organizers and activists and stuff. But like for me personally, I saw what it did to all of them. They were all crazy. They were all depressed. They were all pessimistic. Yeah. They all wanted to burn it all down.
Absolutely.
All, and it was burning themselves down, and they carried that. And I think you make a great point that, like, yes, things are kind of going to shit, but no, they don't have to, and no, we don't have to be a part of it, and no, we don't have to let it,
consume us.
Yeah, consume us. And
contribute to it.
Yeah, I love seeing your stuff on there, and you've got some, you ruffle some feathers, and it's fun to watch the heads explode when you post something about whatever, and I just am like, wow, look how angry that guy is.
Like Paul always told me, he says that once you start controlling your own mind, he says it starts becoming very lonely. And I have definitely witnessed that. And your friend, as you mentioned, your friends change, and your daily habits change, and the other thing is I feel like I wasn't put on this earth to make somebody feel at ease. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have an ability to help people question things, and I think that's the most important thing. Again, is helping people understand that they can control their own mind, and that they don't have to be a control bot the rest of their lives.
How's it affected your relationship with other people in your life, especially from family? You mentioned that you grew up in a hardcore Catholic family, as did I. Family
is the toughest thing. I mean, absolutely the toughest thing. I came from a big family. There was 8 kids. My father's no longer alive. My mother's in a nursing home. My oldest sister had stage 4 breast cancer, and dealing with things there. My family, I absolutely love my family to death. We're very close. Mm-hmm. And I realized, when I would go home that once a year or maybe that twice a year, I realized that I was being a big asshole when I was home. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. Oh, do you know what's in this? Oh, I can't, And I realized that they were resenting me. And I just want whatever time we have together to be as loving as I possibly can. So you have to learn at that point just to love with empathy and compassion instead of trying to change people. And, flip side, if someone doesn't ask for your help, don't give it, because it wasn't asked for. And there's also a big energy exchange too. If somebody's not paying for your advice, it can be a big problem as well. There's a resentment that occurs, because at the end of the day, my gift or my energy is in when I work with my clients, and how I get energy back is in the form of money. Money is nothing but a form of energy, and it's energy to buy organic food and buy my dog's food and put clothes on my back and allow me to travel and make my car payment and do whatever. Money is energy. So whenever there's an ask for advice, family is the hardest thing to deal with, because there's an emotional attachment, and the hardest thing to do as someone that is in this profession, because they have dedicated their lives to helping other people and to truly have a passion for helping other people, the hardest thing is to not become attached to the outcome. It's the hardest thing for any one of us to do. And people say, well, how can you not? That's cold. Well, no, it's not, because if I became attached to every outcome, there's no way I'd probably even be alive right now. That would take so much energy from me. I mean, I remember as a physical therapist, I used to lie in bed. Oh, my patient's not doing this. Oh, why isn't he doing that? And it's draining. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So being as an effective a coach as you possibly can, but understanding that people are going to make 3 choices in life. They're going to make either the optimal choice, they hired you for your opinion. They're going to make the suboptimal choice, where they do something completely different that you advise them not to do, or they're going to do the do nothing. They're going to take the apathy, the apathy choice, which is the worst, because life is all about movement. Whether you're moving forward or moving backward, it doesn't matter. It's all about movement. And if you move backwards, sometimes you have to hit the proverbial rock bottom before you start climbing out again. Sometimes you have to hurt your back 16 times before you understand, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing CrossFit. Sometimes you have to literally get cancer to understand that you need to take a vacation. So, the big picture, we can't see the big picture. And I don't know what's right and what's wrong, because I don't have that ability to see, everything. I can only see what's around me. I feel like every now and then I feel like I'm just a little megapixel in a huge screen, and I can only see my neighbor, but I can't see the big picture. So I can only do what's best and what's right at the time, and I'm always trying to do my best, but not becoming attached to the outcome is such a difficult thing to do, especially when you're dealing with family. When you're dealing with clients that pay you, it's a different story. They come in, they seek your advice. There's a money exchange, there's an energy exchange, and hey, they go out the door, and listen, if you don't do your home exercise program, it's your pain, it's your body, you're the one that has to suffer with it, not me, right? So, that's a really tough thing that I had to learn as I started evolving in this practice.
Yeah, I imagine it's easier to detach when you're talking about clients, but when you're talking about family, particularly when you have family dealing with health issues, you really want to scream and stand on the table and scream and, what are you eating? Why are you doing this to yourself? and blame them, which obviously goes nowhere and makes everyone feel worse. But,
oh man, again, I think that's probably in my career that has been my biggest challenge, is watching my family, and again, I love them to death, every one of them. I'm very close with my 3 sisters. Is watching them make the choices that they make, and but it's their choices, and I have to honor their choices. And again, the highest form of human love, I really believe, is just loving with empathy and compassion, and just being there, and being with them and allowing them to go through whatever they need to go through, and just supporting them the best way that you can.
Complete non-judgment and just being
Yeah,
present.
well, it's hard not to judge,
Yeah.
but the thing that you got to realize is when you are judging and why are you judging, right? I mean, that's the hardest thing for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through the same with family. My dad's a type 2 diabetic, and when I first started learning everything, was like, put that down, don't touch that, you need to do this, what the hell's wrong with you? Do you want to die? Do you want everyone to, do you want Michael, my son, to grow up without you? Do you want this and this? And I would yell, and then he would change one thing begrudgingly, and then complain about it, and whatever. And they did. They changed some of their stuff. They get grass-fed meats. They eat some organic foods. But my dad still orders a Coke when we go out to eat, and to go with his insulin shot. And yeah, so it's I went through. I get it. I totally it made me crazy at one point, and then I felt guilty. It's my fault in some way that I can't get him to change what he's doing, and that if anything happens to him, it's my fault because I didn't try hard enough, and I knew the information that could save him or whatever, and it's not my fault. It's not my problem. It's not my decision, and I think I went through it a little slower I don't know how long it took you to make that shift of letting go the attachments and things, but for me it took a while.
Mm-hmm.
And now the most difficult thing to deal with is lingering guilt. Is it bad that I don't rag on him and hound him? Is it, should I be doing more? And ultimately you just can. And with clients too, I know plenty of practitioners and coaches and trainers who do carry all the crap from their clients. And
that guilt that you're feeling, that's that Catholic bullshit. Just remember that.
All right, gone. But yeah, it's very real, and I've seen tons of people in our field struggle with it, whether it's a sister or a dad or a mom or anyone. Family's definitely the hardest one to detach from, but learning to detach from outcomes as a whole is a hugely powerful lesson that I've learned via some of the books we mentioned and some of the trainings. And now people, I used to say that we're destroying the world, we're destroying the planet. The planet's going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
People are probably doomed, but my attachment to the future of the human race has changed drastically too. Now I'm on the side of life. So life will be fine. The best thing that could happen to this planet is us probably going extinct, at least in our current, thing. So yeah, man, that's a really great lesson.
I think at some point the Earth is just going to kind of shake us off her back,
Yep. All right, you guys had enough chances. Get the hell out of here. Evicted. I gave you 3,000 chances. You screwed up every single one of them. Massive super volcano. Go. Done.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
And then 2 million years from now, there will be some other half-intelligent thing killing each other, arguing over whether whatever.
Dave is twos and
my God is bigger than your God. Bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how many times it's happened. Because there's those who believe in. There were a lot more advanced civilizations or longer history than what, traditional history talks about. Graham Hancock is one of them. And it's fascinating that there definitely could have been advanced civilizations in the past and been wiped out. And it'd be so long ago we wouldn't know. And somebody's going to find an iPhone someday and be like, what the hell was wrong with these people? Hopefully they would say what the hell was wrong with these people, not these people are awesome. Let's do everything they did.
Let's do that again. It seemed like a party.
If aliens were to come here, these people, the first thing they would see, they'd have to just be like, oh shit, turn around. These people are going to try to kill us or enslave us or steal our things. But yeah, we just, hopefully we make that switch, that consciousness switch that needs to happen.
The pendulum's swinging. Hopefully it's swinging that way. We'll see.
Cool.
It has to. I think it has to. Either it's going to stay the way it is, or
it has to. I think it just absolutely has to. At least I've convinced myself that it has to.
Exactly.
It would be cool if it happened in our lifetime, if we got to see that shift happen. But
it would be.
There's signs of it, right? I mean, there's some signs of that happening, isn't there?
I think there is. I think, again, like I said, for the first time in many, many, as far in our experience, our lifetime, there's this collective consciousness. There's this restlessness. There's this outcry, and I think some people are definitely waking up. At least that's my version.
Mike, you mentioned
the internet. Like, I can talk to people in like Bolivia. Like the sharing of knowledge and ideas and growth, and like as much as technology is a detriment in some ways, like organizational things and the organizational capacity and the sharing of information, the sharing of ideas, the sharing like of movements of thought, like philosophy, like all that stuff. The internet is the last bastion of like communication, whereas the media is all bought and paid for. The media is all corporate dominated and controlled and censored and whatever. We still have the internet, and the internet, like, dude, I have like the culmination of all knowledge that human beings have ever had in the history of mankind in this little device right here. And you remember when people used to have to argue over things? Like, you'd be talking to someone and you'd be like, no, that's not true or whatever, and then somebody would have to go find like a book or an encyclopedia, or you'd go get those little newspaper things you had to look through the thing to see.
Yeah, the microfilms.
Oh, the microfiche, yeah.
Yeah, and now like Google has rendered all arguments completely void.
Exactly.
Like, it's just, oh, that's the answer. Ding, look, you're wrong.
You don't even have to. You can press a button. Well, at least on an iPhone.
You don't even have to push a button. You can just talk.
So Siri.
Hey Siri, exactly.
Can Siri answer to voice now? You don't even have to touch the phone.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, there's hope. We can do it.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. We're trying. We're doing what we can do. Like that's all you can do is what you can do. So.
One more question for both of you guys. Mike, you mentioned Graham Hancock, and I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts lately, like every day for hours. But who do we have today that we could listen to that are sort of the philosophers of today that might help push us along on the right path?
I mean, I'll just tell you what I'm listening to right now. I'm listening to Hicks's The Vortex, and I'm really liking that.
Okay.
Have you guys? The Vortex is, the Vortex. Esther and Jared Hicks. The Vortex. It's about the law of attraction. It's not like The Secret.
Right.
It's really kind of fascinating, and we a little bit alluded to this earlier about going down that negative road, and with Hicks's, what they say is the more you do that, the more you attract that to your life. And that you really want to think about just the things that you really want in your life, and that's got to be your focus. And again, it goes down to the law of attraction. According to the Vortex, that is law. That is physical law, and it cannot be denied. So that's what I've been listening to recently, and I've really been enjoying the Vortex. I would highly recommend it.
Cool. I'm gonna check
it was actually a gift from Paul Check for Christmas, so it's kind of fascinating.
There you go. What about you, Mike? Anyone that comes to mind that you're listening to that's kind of driving you right now?
That's alive?
Yeah, not necessarily, I guess, but
alive really narrows it down. Well,
it don't have to be alive.
That book I mentioned, Pieces Every Step, Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know how to pronounce his name actually, but
I think that is it. Yeah.
He's awesome. That's awesome. I don't claim to be a Buddhist. I'm not a Buddhist. I enjoy reading Buddhist writings sometimes. Mm-hmm. He's probably, by far, the most approachable and practical Buddhist teacher that I've come across in anything I've read. I really like Pema Chodron too, but she's a little, I don't want to say more Buddhist, but a little less approachable to people who might not think that Buddhist word is scary to them or something. But
I like that she teaches meditation and she admits that she sucks at meditation.
Yeah, she's cool. She's a little not negative, but I recommend people read her stuff when they've had like a tragic thing happen.
Yeah,
she's great with that. But Thich Nhat Hanh is awesome. That Pieces Every Step is probably my favorite spiritual book I've ever read, just because it's super practical. Like it's short chapters, and there's a chapter in it where he talks about how to do dishes mindfully, and I hate doing dishes, and I feel like I spend like a third of my life doing dishes. And I was reading that while I was listening. I listen to books more than I read them, and I was listening to that chapter while I was walking the dog, and I just started laughing because he was talking about how to be like mindful while you're doing dishes, and I felt as if that chapter in that book was written for me, like. Like that was, he was like, oh, well, Mike's going to read this sometime, so I'm going to write this chapter. And
I bet Mr. Hahn, when he was sitting down to write that, said, you know what, I'm going to write this for Mike because I freaking hates washing dishes.
Yeah, and something simple is being grateful for having dishes and food in a sink and running water.
Exactly.
Versus focusing on what you're going to be doing when you're done with the dishes and how it sucks to do dishes and how I wish I was rich so I could hire someone to do my dishes. Like, it changes the experience of doing the dishes, and that sounds silly, but that's a lesson you can take, like, to doing anything that you think sucks to do, and just change it. And like, oh, I got to go get the oil changed in the car. Is I have a car.
Right, I get to get the oil changed.
My car works. My car takes me to that place. I live in a place where I can go 2 minutes down the street and a guy will change the oil in my car.
You know, that's a lot like the that's the same thing as the vortex. It's getting away from the negative and going to the positive.
One of the things that grounds me and reminds me of that is just the saying that says that just change I have to I get to. And it works for pretty much everything.
I fought that so hard. Yeah. JP, Dan, I believe you know Amy Andrews.
Yes.
Amy was one of my first people I met in the industry in Chicago, and she used to just make little comments to me when I would say, I used to be super negative and cynical and angry, and she would be like, why don't you say this? And I would get so pissed, like just little things like that, like changing this wording or that wording. And she introduced me to things like law of attraction and positive thinking and these, and I hated it. I hated every bit of it. That woo-woo bullshit isn't going to work on me. You're, okay, Amy, just stop it. Like, I would dread phone calls with her because I knew that she was going to harp on me for, like, my wording and my language and all, and I still, every time Amy was just here for a conference last year in San Diego, and we were able to meet up and have dinner, and I was like, thank you for, like, not giving up on me, because I would have gave up. I tell some people things once, usually, and that's it. And,
exactly.
And I was like, you were right, I was wrong, sorry, thank you, and JP too, and it was like, I found that for ourselves and for other people, like, the more hardcore we resist something like that, the more appropriate it probably is and necessary for us.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we can keep talking about this stuff for hours, but
Dan has a job.
Exactly.
So, that's what I do.
I'll have you back to talk about Aldoa and Crazy Gee and all the myofascial
stuff. Oh man, I have been on such an amazing. I told you the foreshadowing. After I finished everything that Paul Chek has ever taught, and I was one of his faculty members, I would go off to these. I still had to keep up my physical therapy license, so I had to start taking physical therapy courses, and I just I'd go to these courses and I couldn't put my finger on it. I kept looking around. Why is everybody so unhealthy? Why is everybody eating M&Ms and licorice and Coke? And then I realized, like, duh, I'm not at a Czech conference. I'm at a physical therapy conference. So I would go to these physical therapy classes, and I would come away just so bummed. And I thought, man, because I love continuing education. I mean, I love to learn when it's what I want to learn. Mm-hmm. And, I guess I could be considered a continuing education whore, I guess, if you want to go that far. But, I got to the point where I thought, wow, my continuing education life is over as I know it. Yeah. And then I got introduced to Dr. Voyer, and then I had that same holy crap moment that Paul gave me the first time that I was with him in New York. And Dr. Voyer has kind of turned my life upside down. Not